In the pantheon of IMSA's Coliseums, Road Atlanta stands as one of the most revered. Short, technical, and fast, it's a white-knuckle ride. Our drivers know this and will be prepared for the roller coaster they're about to embark on. So buckle up as we get ready to watch Round 9 of the Camel GT series. And you'll see it all live here on the Global SimRacing Channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth is Adam Lindgren. Behind the scenes is our director, Robert O'Brien, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Road Atlanta's history saw ebbs and flows until it reached the world-renowned status it has today. Let's take a closer look with our track guide. Welcome to Road Atlanta, the scene of incredible sports car racing for decades and the home to the Petit Le Mans. This is a track that has proven itself to be worthy of attention on a world stage. With it being situated only an hour northeast of Atlanta, Georgia, the circuit is in a prime location. But despite its flagship race, in contrast to the real Le Mans, the full course is a measly 2.5 miles long. The club layouts also clock in at just under 2 miles. Packed within this small lap length is a series of technical and challenging corners, some of which can be race-ending even when small mistakes are made. Turn 1 is a fast sweeper which compresses the car into the track, but the high speeds mean that when you go off, you typically go off in a big way. Turn 3 is notorious for its curved entry into a blind apex. Too far inside and you face a cut course penalty. Too far outside and you're likely to spin out. Then there's the unassuming Turn 5. The wide curving lures you into getting greedy, but the close walls on either side gobble up cars and spit them out as a crumpled heap. With all the tricky fast turns, that's not to say that there aren't passing opportunities. The main one comes at the chicane at the bottom of the backstretch. The huge downhill drop into the turn makes outbraking yourself quite easy though, so be careful. The whole thing wraps up with the frightening final corner. With nothing but a giant wall right to the outside as cars fly through at high speed, it's not often that wrecks are small. Boasting a wide swath of series over its history, everything from NASCAR to Indy Lights and of course IMSA, the main use of the track is SCCA events and driving schools. No wonder this place is popular both in real life and here on the iRacing service. Fans will no doubt get to enjoy many more years of action at this incredible track. It's a popular track. It's used a lot here in iRacing and seems very popular this morning as well, Adam.
Yeah, absolutely, Joe. 2 splits and very big ones as well, but around here, Road Atlanta, it's a real challenge for all the drivers to get all these turns right, especially through the S's and coming onto the long back straight. All 12 turns of this 2.54 mile or just over 4 kilometer track is extremely challenging for the drivers to nail, especially the exits of the corners. The GTPs are going to feel the most at home here as they are on most tracks, but that's just barely because the GTOs tend to have a decent amount of turn-in time and turn-in speed when it comes to the 90-degree rights and lefts that pock this track. But turn 1 and through the S's is the danger zone for both classes, especially when it comes to multi-class around here, as that downhill section can cause a lot of consternation with the 30-mile-an-hour overspeed that can occur between the GTPs and the GTOs. Though both classes can get fairly strung out on the backstretch, and you'll see a lot of trains of cars heading down to the chicane at the bottom of the hill. Coming under the bridge, though, is also another danger point, with the GTPs trying to go quickly through those sets of corners while the GTOs need every inch of the road in order to make sure that they have an efficient run onto the start-finish straight. We've seen some close finishes here in the past, Joe. I would expect today is going to be fairly chaotic, but I would expect no different.
Yep, I am kind of in the same boat on this one. Now, as for the championship, it's not as chaotic. If anything, it's been pretty straightforward in the prototypes. Timothy Reed leading by 35 points. Remember, it's 25 for a win, so he's looking very handy considering this is round 9 out of 12. It's Jungbluth and Humphrey that have been hotly contesting that second position. And then Aitor Sentes Galindo, who's a little bit back on the horse finally, unfortunately has not had a consistent season of his own and has fallen by the wayside. So looking unlikely that he'll take another championship, but mathematically he's technically still in it. From there, you got some close fights between Ruiz, Gabbiani, and Alvarez and Clapper down there between 5th and 8th. You can honestly throw in Olsen and Sanchez in there if you wanted. They are all within less than 20 points. So let's take a look at the GTOs while we're at it.
Well, the GTOs moved Timothy and the GTOs down to second position, with Javier Del Olmo having 36 points over Timothy Vaughn. Vaughn's still definitely in it for the championship, though, with 25 points on the board for P1, but Del Olmo would have to have a couple of bad races, and that's definitely possible here at Road Atlanta. Robert Plumley still mathematically in it, but quite a ways out at 55 points back, with Doug Cloud very close behind, as well as Tim Kennedy, Theo Schleray. Honestly, take everyone down to the bottom of the top 10. Could duke it out for that third position if they really set their hearts on it. But I'd expect to see Robert Plumley, Doug Cloud, Tim Kennedy, and Theo Schleray trying to move their way forwards, especially Theo Schleray with 2 wins on the trot.
Now, for today's race, one of the big talking points, besides some of the chaos we're expecting, is this is an enduro round. It's 60 minutes, so fuel strategy is going to be a big part of it, and who can manage to make a pit stop at the right time and get the most out of that pit stop. Now, it is an open setup series, but they tend to swap around setups very openly. In this group, nobody really holds many secrets typically because it's so small. They usually just are focused on bringing in new people, so they don't kind of hold those close to their chest like some places do. No spare car, though, so if you wind up with damage, which is easy to do at Road Atlanta, you're going to find yourself having to come in maybe a little bit out of pit sequence to take those repairs. Drive-through penalty at 17 incidents, DQ at 25. Not anticipating those being a problem, despite this being enduro. It's more about keeping the car out of trouble and not having damage on this one. But right now, as we wait for the qualifying times to finish, Alex van der Sant is currently on the provisional pole, and he's finished both of his times. In fact, so is Hugh Haycox and Timothy Reed. So who do we have left that could challenge? Cintas Galindo hasn't set a time yet, so he's a maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. And now we're seeing Fabian Jungbluth, who has been struggling to get back up to a top 5 form over the course of the last couple of seasons. Michael Janke, however, down in the GTOs, taking over provisional pole position from Noel Lundberg. Arimas Zelenskis also in third. Arturas Kundalis and Javier Del Olmo down in fourth and fifth. So our newcomers coming over from the TCR Championships in the Europe TCR Championships doing a great job sweeping the provisional podium for the race right now.
Color me impressed. Aaron Humphrey, not necessarily known for his raw one-lap speed, qualifies fifth. He's been just basically racking up. Oh, Pepe Fuentes comes out of nowhere and takes the pole away from Van de Sant. So we have a change on the front row. Hugh Haycox now gets bumped down to third. I'd say we got a fight on our hands.
Yeah, and Cintas Galindo only goes 18th for his qualifying position, so he's got a real hard time of it. Jermaine Suarez in 20th now, so quite a few of our drivers that we expect to be at the front of the field are not for this start of the race for the GTPs. In the GTOs, it's a fairly strong takeover from our European drivers who have come in over the course of this season. Yeah, and I mean, Tim Kennedy's down in 7th position, David V. Lehman in 9th, Cam Porter in top split today. Great job for Cam to get that iRating up to join us in 12th. And Noah Lundberg moves up to the pole position now.
Yeah, so GTO has changed hands. Michael Janke does not have a chance to respond as he's already had his 2 laps. Still don't have a lap from Robert Plumley, but he's sitting in pit lane, so I don't think he's got the time to get around there, nor Tupola. Rangel just popped up into 12th in that category. Again, more than 40 drivers, and this is top split. So this is going to be a lot happening at once for everybody out here. I think everyone's going to have to be on their toes.
Yeah, and Joe, Ove Trangrade, only 18th, but now jumps up to the pole. A good second lap for him, puts him on provisional pole. In fact, I think that's going to be pole position because Tupola can't complete his laps. That's going to be it for everyone for qualifying.
Wow. No offense to Tupola. I don't think he would have challenged Ove Trangrade, though, once he got a lap in, unless he had been hiding some stuff for us for a long time. But wow, Ove Trangrade in that 5, suddenly finding himself at the top of the timing sheets here. So our grid is set, and Pepe Fuentes is starting on the top spot in the GTPs. Alexander Van de Sant is going to be starting in second with Hugh Haycox in P3. Our championship leader, Timothy Reed, starts down in 4th, but those 3 in front of him are not fighting for the championship, so he needs to bide his time. He has to realize a big picture, I think, on this one. Aaron Humphrey will start from 5th as Xavier Sanchez is P6, and then Andrew Medell in 7th. Then it's James Barry starting in 8th, followed by Lau Stolson, a little far down for him in 9th. Brendan Lim will start in 10th. Next slide sees Tobias Roner in the 11th position. Alec Campbell starts 12th, and Hamilton Barrera Ruiz will be P13. Jack Wells starts 14th today. Richard Holt in the 15th spot, then is flanked by Jesus Sanchez Morales. He's got Fabian Jungbluth behind him in 17th, and Heitor Sentes Galindo, a lowly 18th today. Gonna be a tough one for him. Seamus Power is next in 19th, and German Suarez starts 20th. Austin Diltz will be 21st. Drivers who did not set qualifying times in the prototypes are Carlos Fonseca, Jason Clapper, and Dan Reed.
And then in the GTOs, we got Ovi Trangrade taking pole on his second lap. A desperate grab of pole position from Noel Lundberg, who lines up in second position. Then it's going to be Michael Janke in third, with Javier Del Olmo in fourth spot. Arimas Solinskis in fifth on row 3, next to Arturas Kundalis. Then we got Sultan Deme on row 4 with Tim Kennedy next to him. Linus Petkavicius and David B. Lehman round out your top 10, with Thomas Sipis in the 11th spot and Emerson Gaudin in 12th. Pablo Rangel lining up in 13th and Cam Forder 14th. Ben Lafter 15th and Edouard Yarmilo in 16th position. Ian Haycox is going to line up in 17th with Jamie Hamill-Smith in 18th. Xavier Baca in 19th. Rounding out your top 20 is Jack David Spigot, the first driver to not set a qualifying time. Then we got Robert Plumley, Duncan Marius and Duncan Moraes and Mika Tupola. That is 23 Audis for 49 drivers in top split. Top split, Joe.
Whew. Well, it is just barely over a tenth of a second between first and third in terms of pace. So it is going to be tight up at the top as well. And it's cooler conditions with it being so early in the morning, just before 9 a.m. virtual standard time. So it's 72 Fahrenheit or 22 Celsius on the track surface itself. Not a lot of wind, so hopefully they won't be having to battle the elements, even though they will be having to battle one another and the track quite a bit today.
I've seen it gust up to about 12 miles an hour, Joe, and that could affect the GTPs going over the top of the hill, especially under braking. They get fairly light coming up over there, and the aerodynamics definitely, if that's coming out, if that ends up swinging around to the rear of their cars, that could actually cause them to get a little unglued aerodynamically from the surface, which could cause some issues as the Porsche pace car pulls off.
Okay, so they take off on the warm-up lap here, and they'll be released and on their way for 60 minutes. Don't forget, one scheduled pit stop for everyone. No one has enough fuel to make it to the end, so they'll all have to come down in. Now, that pit entry and pit exit, though, I think could be a bit of an issue for some drivers. We've seen in just about every series that has come here and needed pit stops, Adam, that both kind of have their own pitfalls.
Yeah, the GTPs have it a little bit easier, but that little kink that goes to the right immediately into the pit lane entry can cause some problems if they clip the grass on the left side. The GTOs have to take it fairly slow just because it's a downhill braking and downhill maneuvering for them, and their cars are very heavy. So they usually take it fairly slowly into the pits because of that. But yeah, it can be a pitfall for both classes if you're not careful.
And then, of course, the exit, you can see right there, it dumps you right out into the thick of it at a blind part of the track. So everybody's going to have to mind their P's and Q's. Now, the unfortunate thing is it's not just limited to a smaller portion of the race. The pit window, probably a good 40 minutes wide, I would say, if not more than that. So drivers could be coming in and out at any point in the race. It'll also make it interesting for us, at least, because we won't have a true clear picture probably until the final 15 minutes.
Honestly, if I was Heitor Sentes Galindo, I would consider pitting early. Pitting quite early, actually. It depends on whether or not I could find a gap that would put me out just ahead of the Audi field. But because of how far back he is, he might actually lose a lot of time fighting through the GTP field. And it might do him better to come in and tank up and take the weight penalty that comes with having full fuel, but just try and drive it out from an early pit stop.
Yeah, I'm with you, though. I agree that he's going to have to make sure that if he does pit early, he does not get himself stuck in that slower class, because then that'll completely undo anything. So as we get ready to take off here. We are getting ready to get the green flag. Pepe Fuente is going to have control of the field as the pace car now peels in. Pepe looks for the call. He can go anytime he chooses, and he's off. Green flag is out here for round 9 of the Camel GT series, and the GTPs swing out of that final corner down towards turn 1. Very fast first turn here at this track. So far, so good through most of the field. No incidents. Let's go to the GTOs.
Ove Trengray got a great jump on Noah Lundberg. Michael Yankee actually pushing Lundberg wide. You can see in the background that's that's Arimi Sazunskis fighting with Javier Del Olmo. Del Olmo pushed out wide. He's going to try and take the inside of turn 1 down there for the 4th position. Real challenge on cold tires. Pepe Fuentes is around.
This was at turn 5. Didn't hit the wall, but went off course, and he falls all the way down to 18th by the time he gets to the next corner. That was catastrophic for him and for Hugh Haycox, who has had his fair share of races where he's skittered away with an easy win, finds himself with clear air.
Say goodbye to pole position for Pepe Fuentes, so that allows clear air for Hugh Haycox. We know how quick he has been. We haven't seen him in a while, but he's out there right now leading this field.
Got to actually meet him in person this summer, and he and his dad, very awesome people, just very friendly. Got to meet them at Le Mans and catch up on how things go as we come out of that final corner, and it looked like, I think Aaron Humphrey was a little slow.
Aaron Humphrey was slow. Alec Campbell was making a pass on Fabian Jungbluth. Oh, a little bit of contact there between Aaron Humphrey there as he's once again slow. Xavier Sanchez and Aaron Humphrey, we know both of them can get their elbows out if they need to.
Oof, I'm glad they got it sorted by the time they get to turn 3. Not a turn you really want to try and go side by side.
Sorry, Thomas Sibus, Linus Petkavicius went long through the chicanes, and he's very slow trying to get that car going again. I think he got his gearbox all missorted as he got going, but that's a top 5 position down now to 19th for Linus.
Yeah, so, yeah, I'm with you. I looked and checked, and it wasn't a slowdown penalty of any sort because the black flag was very much gone by that stage. He knew he was going to overshoot it. He aimed for where he could not do any harm. And then from there, car just was full of neutrals at that point.
Easy to do in the Audi. The revs do not fall down as quickly as you'd like them to, and so you actually have to be quite patient before you get that car back into gear.
So he is in 20th in class. My goodness, that is going to hurt. As it's still Hugh Haycox leading the GTPs, Ove Trengray leading the GTOs, and a little slow there for Yankee in 3rd. Did he just lose 2nd place?
Yes, he did. He got wide coming onto the back straightaway. And this is what I talked about the exits, Joe. You got to be really strong on the exits onto this back straightaway because the Audis punch such a strong hole in the air that even without any sort of speed advantage, you can definitely get alongside drivers going into the downhill portion of the race. But now, as we head back towards the start-finish line, Yankee goes from 2nd all the way down to 4th position.
Well, at least it was only 2 spots, as we saw from some of the others. A mistake can cost you so much more than that here, especially early in the race while everybody is crowded together. And definitely this top group in the GTOs, if not separated, thanks to the slipstream down the backstretch. Question is, how quickly will they get caught by the GTPs?
I'm going to say by the dip this lap, or at least by the back straightaway. I think that Hugh Haycox and Alexander Van der Sant, Timothy Reed are all going to be right there. They have to go past a very slow Arturas Gundelis, who took a pit stop on, I believe he started from the pits. So they're going to have to get around him, and it's going to be tense for Hugh Haycox. He's going to have to be patient. That's going to bring Van der Sant and Reed back up to him. And we've had another wreck, it looks like, in that portion of the race that was happening while we were watching these guys.
It was Rangel who had a bit of an off there at turn 5. He's back going, but he's down to 22nd. Didn't hit anything, thankfully. Rare at turn 5, honestly.
All right, so here we go. Van der Sant having a little bit of connection issues. Hugh Haycox leading with Van der Sant tucked in behind him, Timothy Reed. And like I said, we're getting to the pack right about when they go through the chicane here. This is going to make things very interesting for these GTPs. They're going to be trying to pass everybody as they come down the hill across the line next lap.
Yeah, I'd say that this is a bad scenario for them, but I don't know. I don't think they'd be able to make it through this part, as just sneaking through the inside, Van der Sant And Timothy Reed somehow getting through there, but now they're going to go side by side. Van de Sande has to check up. Reed is the one that picks the right place, moves himself into second with that one.
Yeah, and that's some nose damage for Van de Sande. That's going to slow him down on the straightaways, and he's going to be very frustrated. They're going to be trying to cut through this field. You can see Andrew Medell tucked in behind him as well as we continue to watch. I believe this is, this is further back. This is with Humphrey and Sanchez as well, trying to duke it out right now. This is Alexander Van de Sande chased by Andrew Medell.
So Van de Sande must have been severely disadvantaged by that, not just with the damage, as Richard Holt and another friend look like they are off in the chicane.
Yeah, Germain Suarez as well. This was just a little bit of contact, and I believe there was an Audi off as well in the barriers during this. That was Pablo Rangel who was off in the barriers while that was all happening as well.
James Berry also got into, I think actually you just said that, Hamel Smith turned him around. Medell going to get past Van de Sande down into the chicane as we go back to Lundberg here for the battle for the lead and for second place. Solinskas just behind him.
Huge wreck in the GTP's gigantic wreck under the bridge. Everyone's piled up, and they've got multiple classes trying to cut through. That's Fabian Jungbluth, who's made some contact with Austin Dietis. Arturis Kundalus getting caught up in it as well.
Yeah, so many having to scatter, trying to stay out of the way. Let's take another look and try to see if we can untangle this absolute mess. So there's Seamus Power. Is this where it starts?
We're going to find out. I think they came on it late. I think the incident was happening under the bridge before that. We look up ahead down the road, and everyone's trying to snake through. A little bit of contact there with one of the GTPs. Oh, and he crosses in front of the field. That holds up Jungbluth, who makes contact, and there's already a wreck happening under the bridge. That's the 19 there of, I believe, the 16 rather of Richard Holt. No, Brendan Lim rather, who was making contact. So let's see what happens with Lim here.
Poor Power found the ramp nature of this car. Unfortunately, he's going to hit Lim. So watch him just clip that car and go flying. There he goes. And poor Lim is just stuck. And unfortunately, that's on top of a crest. It's hard to see the car. It's so low.
Yeah, and everyone has to keep going because there's no full course yellows in iRacing, so everyone has to keep their foot to the floor to try and retain any sort of position, as we've had a spin from Fabian Jungbluth approaching the bridge as well.
Well, in this case, while yes, I would agree that normally you want to try and lose as little time as possible, I think in that case, survival probably would have been key, and those who managed to sneak their way through gained a ton of spots.
Our leaders in the GTPs are making their way through the GTO traffic right now. Laust Olsen tucked in behind Aaron Humphrey. Very frustrated, I believe, Alec Campbell getting on the radio right now as Andrew Medell tucks it deep underneath Zolinskas in front of Van der Sande. Here is Laust Olsen. All of them just trying to find their way through this Audi traffic. I think nerves are a little frayed. People are a little desperate right now.
So remember, Fabian Jungbluth is well down the order right now. He's in a bad spot. This is a great chance for Humphrey, even though he's just in 6th, to get a ton of points on him. But Laust Olsen is making sure to keep the pressure on, reeling him in, coming down the back stretch. Will he try and take a dive down into the corner? Both of them go down to the inside. I think Humphrey as well was thinking about trying to attack Sanchez.
Absolutely. So Sanchez up there ahead of Humphrey, ahead of Olsen, as they're all going down the hill towards the start-finish straight. That's a slow GTO on the inside. It's going to holding up the traffic just a little bit. But now they race towards our leaders in the GTOs. Obi Trengray, Noah Lundberg, Arimas Solinskas.
And they're not going to want to give up any time if possible while trying to keep it as safe as they can. Sanchez picking his way through carefully, spins up the tires a bit, and that actually slows him down on the exit. That catches out Zolinskas, who has better grip off the corner in these Audis, and he has to wait patiently now as finally he'll go by the 2 leaders.
Noah Lundberg pushed a tiny bit wide by Xavier Sanchez. He's actually going to back off a little bit, but this is going to hold up the GTPs again. Humphrey and Olsen, and now Tobias Rohner as well, as he's trying to tuck his way in. Zolinskas takes a look to the inside of Lundberg. That's going to hold him up, but Laust Olsen gets pushed wide by a wide Zolinskas as well and can't do anything with it. I think Rohner's got the best run.
Aramis is the biggest loser out of that one, lost a ton of time to these top 2 as this battle of 3 swishes past the leaders, and Olsen once again shows his nose but isn't close enough. Big show behind as well, as Trangarade had to try and watch out for Lundberg, who maybe just tried to psych him out a little.
Yeah, Lundberg trying to psych out Trangrade, make him go deep, especially with the GTP traffic passing him. So good mind games there from Lundberg, as that is Aitor Sintas Galindo making his way through. Joe, I don't know how he's done it, but he's up to 9th.
Yeah, he's not gone in and pitted like we said. He's going to stay out, but I said earlier, if you can survive, if you can keep the car clean, especially with how the start of this race has gone, there are positions to be gained.
And he's not within the pit window yet, so that wasn't even an option yet. I think he's just going for the best that he can do. Jason Clapper, who didn't qualify, is up to 10th position as well, tucked in behind this battle.
So Jason, who typically does this, is going to try and see how many he can overtake over the course of it, but he still has Ruiz behind him.
Lundberg decided to go wide around the outside of the first of the right-handers, trying to take a position away from Trangrade. Trangrade, unfazed though, keeps going straight, but they've now, it's brought everyone back a little bit. We've got Arimas Zelinskas and Javier Del Olmo as well tucked in there. Del Olmo doing a great job today of holding on to that 4th position, considering all the chaos that's happened.
Yeah, and let's not forget that Del Olmo is our leader in that points battle, down to the GTOs as well. So a 4th place will do him good. He can afford to lose a few points. He could just maybe try and watch out for some of these frantic GTPs that have been slicing and dicing their way through, some of them kicking up the dirt on the exit of the final turn.
And that was Zelinskas who actually went wide there on the final turn. Now, this is where the GTO leaders have to be very cautious and careful, as we see Richard Holt making a move on Jesus Sanchez Marinas. Carlos Fonseca's, lock up there from, I believe that was Jesus, who, yes, he got locked up. Zelinskas goes to the inside. Oh my goodness, almost gets collected by everybody. It's going to be chaos down the hill.
That was Fonseca, actually, who just about got into him, but didn't make contact somehow, almost 3 wide, wheel smoking on the way into the corner, and we came out the other side. So Carlos, with his extensive experience in this series, coming in handy.
Yeah, the higher the numbers get as far as places go with the GTPs, the more careful you have to be with the Audis, because those GTPs tend to be fairly desperate, tend to be fairly gutsy, taking risks and making moves, and they tend to be with a little bit less skill. That's not always the case, but the ones with more skill are more desperate because they're down lower than they would expect to be. Tobias Roner, who was up there battling with Aitor and Jason and Lars Olsen, he's had a spin. He's now moved back to 10th behind Jason Clapper.
Unusual spot, self-spin over the crest, but he carries on without hitting anything. We were talking about that a little bit earlier, how that used to be a straight line from the backstretch on down through here, where they've now put the chicane to slow the cars. Didn't think that they would get too light to be a problem, but I guess some of the GTPs even experiencing difficulty.
Absolutely. We're taking a look at a battle tucked in behind. This is between Cam Porter and Jack David Spickett. JDS trying to hold off Cam Porter. Cam has been he's been doing a decent job holding position over the course of this race, actually moving up a decent amount of positions with many of the GTPs that have wrecked out. This is Hugh Haycox, who's going to be sneaking around him, our leader in the GTPs, who's about 3 seconds ahead of Timothy Reed.
Yeah, I mean, we're 13 minutes in, and that's already 2 laps that he's put on some of the field in the GTOs. That tells you how many times they're going to have to deal with that lap traffic coming through here. And look at how busy Cam is through this part of the lap, just constantly sawing at the wheel.
How on earth has it already been 13 minutes, Joe? It feels like we just started this thing two minutes ago.
I was going to say it feels like we've already had an hour's race with everything that's happened out on track. This is going to be a long one, no doubt, as up along the backstretch.
Lundberg's making a move for the lead in the GTOs. Just went to the inside of a Trangrade, headed down the hill. Trangrade locked up a little bit, and they almost made contact. Lundberg had to make avoiding action.
And you know who's catching up in all of this is Del Olmo. He is on the back of the 22 and proving a bit of a nuisance for this top 3. Could he potentially try and challenge for the victory?
Absolutely, Del Olmo trying to sneak his way forward. I think he absolutely could. And we've got the leaders in our GTPs making their way through the GTO traffic right now. So the GTP traffic, which is actually quite strung out at this point, there aren't honestly as many of them left as you'd expect. We've already lost 5 of them to the pits. So huge attrition in the GTP field with that gigantic wreck under the bridge.
Van de Sant making an aggressive pass, and that's going to get him into 3rd there. By the way, one of those drivers we've lost is Fabian Jungbluth, a DNF today. So 2nd in the points, is going to find himself severely disadvantage. We now watch Laust Olsen. This is with Aaron Humphrey. Aaron Humphrey is the one that is chasing Fabian Jungblut for P2 in the points. He needs to make sure he brings this car home.
And he needs to make sure that he doesn't get passed by Laust Olsen. But they've got 2 seconds up to Xavier Sanchez ahead, so they've got some work to do, does Humphrey and Laust Olsen, to move forward. That is a lapped car that they're going by right now in the GTPs, but look at the traffic up ahead. They've got a lot to navigate right now.
Kundalis, who's out on track, is fighting with Kavicius and is going to be able to get by. Now under braking, they go past Robert Plumley, but no change of position between Olsen and Humphrey. This is the hill where I mentioned that we saw a driver spin it earlier, but these two keeping it on the circuit, cutting back underneath as they try to slide through on the front stretch.
Both of them doing a decent job of communicating well with the Audis. It does lose them a touch of time, but they don't take the risks that a lot of the other drivers do. And I think Laust is doing a good job of just hanging with Humphrey as they go through this complex sector with all the Audis in front. And we got that battle between Cam Porter and Jack Davis Pickett up next.
And the thing that amazes me in all of this is this group, you go up to about Alex Van de Zandt, Medell up there in third, but then it's 18 seconds to Haycox and Reed ahead of them all. So the GTPs have become the haves and have-nots. Big look down to the inside there from Del Olmo, but then decides against it. But he's trying to get into the head of that number 22.
Xavier Baca just made contact with Jason Clapper and Robert Plumley as they're going down the back straightaway. Plumley and Baca battling for the 16th position, I believe, as they're all duking it out down the back straight. Lots of chaos going on all over the track right now as we're watching Obe Trangarade losing his lead a little bit to Lundberg.
Once again, putting that pressure on, a little off the apex there for the number 5, but he manages it well. Just has to keep from making those major mistakes around here as they fly through the S's and into turn 5. It's an absolute traffic jam behind them up through turn 3. That's Ian Haycox, I think.
Yeah, and Laust has made the move on Humphrey. We're going back to watch it now. Humphrey got held up by a GTO going through the final corner, and Laust carries the speed down the hill. Look at how fast he's going compared to Humphrey, and he just cuts his way to the outside. What a move.
Wow. Last second decision to get down to the right-hand side, and it paid great dividends. Humphrey could not hold him back. Oh. And, man, tight stuff down through turn 3 there.
We had a wreck between Xavier Baca and Linus Pekavicius. They made contact going over turn 3, hitting the outside wall, unfortunately. So, yeah, just bad luck for them.
All right, 18 minutes in, and there's a massive wreck down in the chicane.
Tim Kennedy and Zoltan Deme have made contact with one of the GTPs.
Brendan Lim, it looks like. So he was already involved in a big incident. Now he's found another one.
Oh, this was precipitated by Tim Kennedy and Zoltan Deme getting very close together. Tim Kennedy gets bumped a little bit onto the grass. You're going to see it right here. He gets touched just a tiny bit side by side, and then that puts him on the grass, and he keeps his foot in it, and that means that he spins that right rear wheel. He runs into Tim Kennedy, or into Zoltan Deme there, and then goes spinning into the inside wall, and yeah, just unfortunate moments there for all those drivers involved.
Well, that is going to probably end the day of Brendan Lim, I would assume, considering he had pretty heavy damage on the first one. I'm amazed he's back out on the track as he was. So we come back to the battle for third. Del Olmo is by. Did we miss that?
Yeah, Del Olmo has made it his way by into third position in front of Arimas Salunskis. This was due to some traffic that occurred earlier. So Del Olmo, once again, just continuing to move forward. And here comes Heitor Sintes Galindo cutting through. He's the new challenger to Aaron Humphrey, but Sintes Galindo's going to have to wait. He's coming to the pits. He's going to pit now.
So this goes back to what we were saying earlier. If he's going to make the passes, might as well do it through strategy. And it's all mixed up. I kind of agree with this still. Yeah, he's going to have to go by some of the GTOs, but at this point, he could maybe have to pass fewer of the GTPs on track.
Oh, he misses his pit box, though, so that's going to cost him about 2 seconds, unfortunately. But over the course of this race, maybe not so much, as Arimas Salunskis almost running into the back of a GTP there, trying to chase down Javier Del Olmo.
as that is Lehman having a bit of a problem there. David sitting in 10th in that battle with Ian Haycox. Haycox skitters away. Ben Laughter also goes through.
Oh.
So David still in 10th at least.
Yeah, Jermaine Suarez just made a really ambitious dive up the inside of turn 3, and the GTOs, with that rise in the hill, they can't really maneuver under braking like that, so just caught him out a little bit.
Off of turn 7 onto the back straights. That's Jack David Spickett. That is for position back there as we watch Ian Haycox fly down the back straight. He's going to get caught by Alec Campbell. Easy pass down into the chicane, but he is going to split Campbell from Morales, or he thinks he is. Morales unable to make the overtake.
Well, I don't know if the drivers know where they are anymore. There's a couple more GTPs ducking into the pits. Just under 40 minutes to go. That should be them able to get to the end fairly comfortably on fuel. But this has been chaotic enough that, like, at this point, with the field a little bit more strung out, it might be time to start consolidating your positions, thinking about what your strategy is going to be for the rest of the race.
I agree. It's only 9 more minutes until the halfway mark of this race, so it's starting to tick off incredibly quickly. To watch them navigate through the S's once again. Haycox has the right of way, being up at the front, and it's up to those GTPs to find their way through 3 wide as Fonseca sees Hugh Haycox get ready to lap him. And Hugh making, I wouldn't say aggressive moves, but certainly in a hurry to not let Reed catch up to him.
Absolutely. He's got to move. He's only got 2.3 seconds to Timothy Reed, and Reed's quick and consistent. So Hugh Haycox has got to get going, and Fonseca, I don't think he was very happy about that.
For Hugh here, there is no championship to worry about. He is not involved in that. It is all down to the victory and nothing else today. So no wonder he is eager to try and hold on to that spot at this stage. Timothy Reed gonna go by the car of Gaudin and set.
Beat him up, beat him up, beat him up.
And we just saw a move for the lead there between Noah Lundberg and Ove Tranger. Very close stuff between those two drivers as they were coming over the top of the hill. Still a decent battle though, with Ove Tranger having passed, still holding off Javier Del Olmo at the moment. So very tense stuff. Oh, a little bit of contact there between Jesus Sanchez Morales and Javier Del Olmo. That's going to slow him up and allow for Hugh Haycox to sneak his way through. Sanchez Morales, a little bit of a spin on the rear tires as Hugh Haycox continues pushing forward.
Absolutely. And Vandesant has pitted now. So our front row driver has found himself in pit lane a little bit after Sintez Galindo, interestingly. But I think we saw Alexander have a little bit of contact earlier. I wonder if he's repairing the damage to help his straight line speed.
Yeah, I think a lot of drivers are going to have some damage to repair for sure for all of them at the moment. But Timothy Reed down to 1 second behind Hugh Haycox. So all this traffic really has caused issues for Haycox in the lead of this race. Timothy Reed in a really good position to try and take some more time away as he sneaks past Noel Lundberg, our leader in the GTOs. That's a second lap he has put on the leaders.
Vandesant emerges with a very typical pit stop time. So if he did have damage to repair, it didn't cost him anything, or he didn't spend time on it all. He just had a big moment up and over turn 5 and was able to save it from spinning off into the barriers. Oh, Sanchez is in.
All right, so Sanchez into the pits. He's going to take the strategy as well. Very, very interesting stuff for all these drivers.
So sounds like we've got one driver going very slow through traffic. Sanchez hits his spot. So up through turn 6, Medell now out on track, has not pitted yet. He inherits third place from those who have stopped. We have 35 minutes left to go. We're going to check in with Del Olmo now. Still in that third position. He's managed to take over Arimas. Needs to try and catch up Lundberg and Trangrade. With how they've been fighting, I'm sure he'll get chances.
Yeah, absolutely. With how they've been fighting and how the GTPs have been working as well. So Del Olmo in a really good position. He doesn't really need to take this win. He just needs to continue to be consistent over the course of the rest of this race and not get wrecked. Oh, Dan Reed almost giving a commentator's curse to Del Olmo there as Aitor Sintes Galindo tries to sneak through as well.
Yeah, Sintes Galindo did lose a lap with his pit stop, so he's now down from our overall leader of Hugh Haycock. Still, he is on chase and he's on an alternate strategy, and since there are no full course cautions, he just has to try and make up the time now as best he can as he passes up Ove Trangerade and now sets off to try and overtake Lundberg. He's got Dan Reed in front of him, but Dan is not on the same lap as the 15.
Oh, we've had a wreck in the GTPs. Alec Campbell and Alexander Vandersant got together.
Oh, Vandersant was one of our top runners. Looks like he's still going, but this happened down into the chicane. Here is the replay.
So Campbell, Alexander Vandersant was very unhappy about this particular incident, but I think that Campbell, I don't know, man. This is a tough one because both of them went into the gap, and I think Vandersant cut him off a little bit, but Campbell then went wide on the exit as well. This is a tough one.
Yeah, he gave him space. I'd put it a little bit more on Alec Campbell, but not a whole lot. I think he got overambitious on the brakes, and unfortunately for him, for both of them, Vandersant paid the price.
Regardless, it's a low percentage move, and when you're running out there with that alternate strategy, I know you want to make moves, but it's still gutsy to take that move into, especially on a driver who hasn't been battling that much. So, yeah, now Vandersant with some significant damage he's going to have to work with.
And Haycock's with a side-by-side run through the S's, and they're going to be able to come out the other side. That was Emerson Gaudin for 7th, and it's not over as he cuts back underneath him.
Yeah, great move from Ian Haycock to just do the over-under there. Gaudin was always going to go wide there through turn 5, so tough stuff. Here comes Jack David Spickett. He's trying to make his way around Gaudin. They're all holding up Jason Clapper right now, who's all the way up to 6th position. But granted, this is in the middle of a pit cycle for the GTPs. JDS, though, with a decent run on Gaudin, he's shifting better, too. He might be alongside when they come down the hill. It's going to be the battle of the late breakers with Ben Laffer looking on.
Poor Jason Clapper was just boxed in there and had no place to go, but he did the right thing and stayed patient. Down the inside, JDS is slicing in front of him. Not much room to spare, but he cuts off Gaudin. Now he goes in front of Ruiz, who is trying to chase down Clapper and has to wait his turn.
Yeah, that was a tough moment for Ruiz. There's no way he could go through there. And now he's gonna go to the inside of Ian Haycock. So that's gonna hold up Haycock's a little bit. Jack David Spickett and Ian Haycock, they've been duking it out all season long. These two drivers fairly even on competitive ability. So the two of them, I'd expect to see them battling for the rest of the race should nothing bad happen to them.
Back to Ove Trangerade, the battle for the lead between the 7 and the 5 car. Del Olmo hasn't dropped off. He's still about the same distance back at 1.1. But these two have been glued at the hip. Question is, will they have any more lap traffic coming through anytime soon? I see Jason Clapper
Here we go.
approaching.
Ove Trangerade to the inside. He's going to try and make the move. He's going to brake later than Lundberg. Can he make the turn? Parks it on the apex, forces Lundberg to go the long way around. Ove Trangerade back to the lead.
So textbook maneuver from Ove Trangerade to put him up to that spot. Ian Haycock is not done with his side-by-side racing. Last time it was Gaudin. Now it's JDS down into the chicane. Behind them, more battles going on. Suarez and Holt trying to see if there is any way to go around. And it looks like, I think that was Suarez who ducked into pit lane wisely, boxed in. Holt has no place to go, just finds a car's width between them.
And JDS is not going to give up the time. He's got a battle with the Ian Haycock story about. He doesn't have to worry about Holt trying to make his way through there. Good stuff from all those drivers who avoid contact, but they've got Emerson Gaudin looking on as well.
Yeah, I think Suarez did the smartest thing in that whole situation. Just bail out, take your pit stop, and try and find some clear track. That had disaster written all over it.
So lots of pit stops going on right now. Arturas Kundelis has come to the pits. Ben Lafter has also come to the pits. I think Arturas Kundelis has yet to pit. I think he was in the opening stages of the race. But Ben Lafter, I believe, is our first regular pit stopper in the Audis. So down to 19th for him. But our leaders in the GTOs, the top 3 now, are battling it out. Del Olmo has joined the fray.
Interesting stuff. As we jump over to that, boy, a lot of that inside curb. Thankfully, kept it on the black
Oh, here he
stuff, and he's going to make a move almost immediately. Lundberg not going to be happy about this, all the way out wide, but keeps it within the boundaries, and the attempt has failed, but it has also brought Aremus into them.
Exciting stuff. Lundberg may have expected Javier Del Olmo to, do line and trail stuff like he has been all race, but I think Del Olmo thinking he might have an opportunity on Ove Trangrade. Looks like Emerson Gaudin has come into the pits for the GTPs, and Jesus Sanchez Morales is slow on track.
He's hit the wall on the exit of turn 1, and it looks like it was a pretty decent hit from what the tire tracks imply. Car returns to the track, but the left-hand side is miserable looking.
And here's a player that's being added to this battle for the lead in the GTOs that we haven't talked about since the start of the race. Michael Janke, is now in 5th position and is slowly clawing his way forward as the GTOs ahead of him battle each other.
That's a good point. And how far back was he is the question, because I didn't think that he had shown up anywhere near those front runners since the opening slipstream train.
Yeah, he was quite a ways back. He had to avoid that gigantic brawl that happened under the bridge with the GTPs. So he's been just slowly clawing his way forward, hasn't really had anyone to battle, and because the drivers ahead have been battling, it's brought him into the picture.
So that's why you just cannot give up in this series. You got to keep pushing as much you can. They work their way down through the S's once again, being led by Ove Trangrade now that he's taken over the lead. Looks like Timothy Reed kind of stuck in between them, though.
Yeah, look at that. Michael Janke's right there. He's there with them now. He's just been able to claw his way forward. I think he might have a little bit more tires left, Joe.
That's an interesting point. Something we haven't talked about here is that you do have to be concerned about that rubber in these cars.
Clapper's
the more
around.
You can baby them, the better. As Clapper, I think that was out of turn 3 and into 4. I'm guessing he took too much curb. We were talking to Turk a little bit earlier behind the scenes here, Adam, that some of these curbs you're really tempting fate.
Here comes the move from Javier Del Olmo up the inside of Lundberg. Lundberg cuts him off. Risky move from Lundberg, but he knows that the championship leader's probably going to try and avoid an incident. Man, that's testing the respect of Del Olmo and the ability. I don't think Del Olmo's going to see too highly of that. He's going to go for the move. Xavier Sanchez is going to think better of taking the inside, but Lundberg trying to sweep his way around the outside. Can't do that in the Audi. He's off.
Into the wall, just a pitiful slither into the tire barrier. Car's not moving. Now he's getting it going. I wondered if he was going to park it and call it a day, but it looks like he's going to try to carry on, but I suspect a top 5 is going to be a challenge for the 7 car.
Yeah, we've all tried that move in the Audi once or twice, and there's really, especially later on in the race, there's not a lot of grip there. Laust Olsen in the GTPs has come to the pits from the 4th position on track, so he's the next to take a bite. Xavier Sanchez is the first of our pitters racing right now in 8th position, and I believe that Olsen is going to fall behind Xavier.
Yep. Looks like he should be overtaken. Still has quite a few seconds left in his pit stop. So here's Yankee coming down, still in 5th. He's got Cybus in front of him now, though.
Yeah, Yankee got a slowdown, I believe, on the back straightaway. Yes, he did. That led him to fall this far back. So he's got a lot of ground to make up now, and he's going to take to the pits instead.
Olsen returns after a long pit stop, 26.2. That's the longest of anybody who's had a scheduled stop so far in the GTPs. So not sure what's going there. Behind Xavier Sanchez. In fact, if he would have been about 4 seconds quicker. That was,
I believe that was Yankee going off it again.
Yep.
Yes, and he's now, oh boy.
That is a shame. He was having such a good race, and I think
that
that was turn 5. Yeah. Not me for once. Now, he's coming out. Did he just take a tow? Oh, he pitted.
So who was that who went off?
That was a red car.
Was it Cam Porter?
I don't think it was. It was a fully red car. I'm trying to remember who was driving
we
that
thought
today?
it was Yankee. It was not. It was not. It was,
Was
not
it
Michael
Spickett?
Yankee, so it might have been Jack David Spickett. No, he's still in the battle with Ian Haycock. So we'll figure out.
All right, so we'll try and track that down.
Oh, pass for the lead. Javier Del Olmo is going around Ove Trangrade because of some traffic with some of the GTPs, and he's been able to make this move work. Oh, here comes Jesus Sanchez Morales to try and take it away. Almost contact between the two of them.
You just cannot ever rest in this series just when you think it's calming down. The excitement comes thick and fast as Ove Trangrade now loses out to our current championship points leader.
Yeah, so Del Olmo doing a great job making that move. So, my goodness, Javier Del Olmo started in the 4th position, got caught up in some early incidents, and now has moved his way back into the lead. Goes to show why he's leading this championship this season. It's been a year since he's won it. It was season 3 of 2022, his last championship win, and now in a great position to do so again.
Latest victim of the track is Tobias Rohner. Cut too much at turn 3, bounded it into the wall, and has had to take Zelenskis, that is a Remus back there.
Yeah, Remus Zelenskis, unfortunately, spinning on, just getting that left rear tire into the gravel again on the exit of the corner coming onto the back straight. We're going to take a look at this again. This is so easy to do, Joe. Oh, wow, he was loose before it. He snapped loose on that car. Just has yet to take his pit stop, and maybe his tires just had enough.
Not a common thing you see in these cars. 4-wheel drive, they can usually power out of those moments, but not today, and he's down to 4th. So the herd is thinning. Del Olmo and Trangrade, the only major players left up at the front now.
Absolutely. Out of the pits comes Hamilton Barrera Ruiz into the battle for 13th position. So good moves for him to get forward. Hugh Haycock still has yet to take his pit stop, as well as Timothy Reed, Andrew Medell, Aaron Humphrey, and Richard Holt. Then it's Xavier Sanchez. Richard Holt actually just comes into the pits. Xavier Sanchez in 6th position, our highest pitter at the moment, but he's going to get past Richard Holt.
Yeah, easily will go by. Not entirely sure where he's going to cycle out, because yeah, he's a long ways behind Aaron Humphrey, so I don't know that he'll get him, but it might be close. This is an interesting one as we continue to watch the battle for the lead in the GTOs come down the back stretch. Xavier Baca just in front of them. Is he going to be an issue? A little look here coming from Trangrade, but then backs off to the racing line.
Yeah, absolutely. Trangrade knows that he's got some decent speed. He knows he could battle Javier Del Olmo for the win, but it's never a good look to put a bumper to the championship leader as Alexander Van der Sant in his very damaged machine pulls over and lets those two drivers go. Ove Trangrade covering off the inside move from Dan Reed as Dan Reed and Alexander Van der Sant make his way by. So yeah, just a lot of heads-up driving from the Audis to communicate clearly to the GTPs where they don't want to be passed right now.
Oof, our leader, Hugh Haycox, took a very risky move just now. 3 wide through turn 1, and he managed to make it stick. Went by Aremus and Carlos Fonseca, so wasn't even for trying to hold off someone fighting him. He was just trying to not lose time, and Reed is about 5.5 seconds right now.
Yeah, those 5.5 seconds can disappear real quickly in traffic. So Hugh Haycox, I think that he thought that those two drivers were letting him go, but then they decided to have their own little moment, and he had to go around the outside. So sometimes as the leader, things can get stressful like that. So very tense stuff for all the drivers right now. Andrew Medell, very slow in 3rd position. He went up the inside of turn 2 on Pablo Rangel and ended up in the runoff area on the inside of 4.
Okay, so loses a lot of time at Timothy Reed and just about loses it in turn 5 on top of it as well. Or no, he was just picked the wrong side to try and go by Pablo Rangel.
Him and Rangel just are not communicating very well right now. Looks like Thomas Sibus has come into the pits from the 3rd position in the GTOs. So this is going to start to get interesting as far as where people start to come out of the pits. Kundal is easily making his way by. But Pindalus has been out there for 29 laps, so he's effectively has not pit yet.
I find it interesting that we've seen plenty of the GTPs take a little bit of an earlier stop, but very few of the GTOs are trying to elicit the same. It seems like that's a lot less popular as Spigot gets overtaken up across turn 5.
There's no benefit to coming in early in the GTOs. You just end up in a draft train with a lot of damage. A lot of things to worry about. German Suarez is stranded on the inside of the final turn, trying to get himself started and trying not to go onto the racing line.
There's another car there, too. I wonder if it's related. Double checking. But yeah, Suarez in a strange spot because I don't know that he'll be able to get back around into the pits there without getting black flags for driving backwards on the racetrack.
Yeah, he decides to keep going, but here's what happened to him. Oh yeah, just getting loose over the top of the hill. We talked about it, Joe. It's possible in the GTP. It's pretty easy to do so if you're not careful. And man, just no grip. That's a pretty big hit to the inside wall.
And it's Tim Kennedy, who was trying to avoid him, that also had an incident there. He wound up having to drive the rest of the way around to Germain and is slowly making his way back to the pits. So
drama everywhere. And
yeah.
Speaking of drama, Joe, Ove Trinker lost 3 seconds to Javier Del Olmo recently. So I don't know what happened as far as the incident. It was very recently. But man, a lot of our drivers just I feel like having lapses of concentration or just having small little run-ins with the other class. That's really starting to create gaps in the field.
Ove actually had an off track. This was all his own. He put his wheels into the grass out of the final turn, and he barely avoided running into the wall. If we can find a replay, we will want to see this one because this was treacherous. He did a very, very good job preventing it from becoming a massive accident.
Absolutely, and there we see Ove very well navigating fairly well, though.
Oh,
never mind.
Well, he's navigating. Everybody else around him is not. Jack Wells with contact with, I think, Pet Kavicius and Xavier Sanchez also trying to dash through there. Sanchez somehow keeps out of the fray, but that would have been a heart attack and a half.
Oh my goodness. It's just so challenging to keep track of where everyone is on track. But closing speeds are so challenging around here. Most of the corners are blind, especially when you're looking through your mirror. It's hard to see where cars are going. So you go back to the battle between Ian Haycox and Jack David Spigot. This is the battle for 4th position for these drivers as Cam Porter takes to the pits from 7th.
Yep, and Cybus is pitted.
Oh, Remus Zelinskas went off, Joe. And here is Ian Haycox and Jack David Spigot trying to make their way around. This might break up that battle, but Zelinskas does not have a good run. He's going to take it deep into into turn 8 here. And out comes, oh yeah, this totally broke up the battle between Ian Haycox and Spigot.
Oh, JDS has unfortunately got himself a bit of a different rival now and sees Ian start to scamper away as they come down the backstretch. He's poking his nose, but now it looks like he's backing out a bit, so I don't think he likes the look of this one, and we'll wait patiently for a better opportunity later. All 3 of these drivers do still need to take their pit stop, though. And
Ian.
Speak of the devil, there you go.
Ian Haycox into the pits, so he decides that he had a little bit of a gap, so he's going to let Zelinskas and Spigot battle each other and hopefully gain a little bit of time by pitting and getting out of that battle. So that's a good decision there from him to do so. Timothy Reed has taken to the pits, just exiting now. And so he is out of 2nd place and has gotten passed by Aaron Humphrey, who has yet to pit.
And Medell just pitted, and Hugh Haycox is in. So Humphrey going to be the last of our prototypes other than Jesus Morales to take a pit stop in this race. My goodness, this is not... Oh, wow. That was close there for Humphrey and Reed, all trying to sneak through. This is for position, but remember, Humphrey is on a different strategy. He has yet to pit, so Reed needs to really be careful here. He cannot throw this race away.
Yeah, Humphrey's on his in lap, Reed's on his out lap. Reed's trying to gain time on Hugh Haycox, but that little moment's definitely going to slow him down. He's really wishing that Humphrey wasn't right in front of him. This is where, if you had a strategist, you'd be complaining about where you got released into, but Hugh Haycox is out and away, well ahead of Timothy Reed, 14 seconds now.
Humphrey releases him and is in pit lane, so that's the last of them. It does look like, yeah, Hugh Haycox is basically just there to bring it home from here and try and stay out of trouble. Meanwhile,
that was Xavier Baca, who unfortunately found his way to the grass on the outside of turn 1. He's now recovered back on track. But Zelinskas and Jack David Spickett have not been battling as much as I think Ian Haycox would have hoped. Zelinskas seems to be struggling to keep up with JDS.
also in front of it all, Del Olmo has about, looks like a 4-second lead over Trangarade. He's very much run away since that scary moment for Ove, and he can't catch him up.
Ian Haycox not very happy about having to battle with Duncan Marias. Unfortunately, Duncan Marias a lap down, holding up Ian Haycox over the course of the first part of this lap.
Yeah, Noel Lindbergh is back there, laps down.
Oh, contact! And that sends Marias into the wall. Contact with Lindbergh and Marias, so unfortunately Marias is now going to take a tow.
Still waiting for these two on screen to pit in. Spickett versus Zelinskas. And both of them pit in now, but let's take a look at this replay first.
Oh, no. And after this replay, we should take a look at Laust Olsen, because Laust, who just made contact in that replay, has been sent around. Unfortunately, off the rear bumper of Ian Haycox, and he now has major damage. So here's Laust. He's going to be catching up to Ian Haycox. Ian Haycox doing nothing wrong, just taking his normal racing line. Comes around the corner, and Laust just didn't realize he was going to slow down that much.
That's a difficult one. Well, now we're down to Del Olmo, Trangarade, and Zoltan Deme. We talked about him a lot. All needing to pit. The 41 is up 4 positions.
Sorry, Joe. Jack David Spickett's in a battle with Remus Zelinskas on pit exit, and Zelinskas made the pass, and Ian Haycox is trying to go around the outside of them. This is the battle on the exit for that position. Zelinskas wins out in pit road.
Wow, impressive. Although I'm sure it's going to be just a small consolation, because remember, he was fighting for a potential win earlier, but he's now way off of that top group. But at least he is in front of these guys. Question is, can he stay ahead of them?
Wow, that was interesting strategies going on. Ian Haycox lost a lot of time with all the incidents that he experienced on those 2 laps that he was out there in front of Jack David Spickett and Remus Zelinskas. So Zelinskas with a good pit stop. Zelinskas' pit stop was an 18.7, so slower than Jack David Spickett's, but his pit lane time was just 0.3 slower as well. So I'm not sure where Jack David Spickett lost the time, but he lost it to Remus Zelinskas over the course of that pit stop.
Oh, poor Zoltan Deme. He wanted to pit in, and just as he did, Xavier Baca was pitting, but he was a lot more timid about his entry, and Zoltan was like a car in traffic honking at the car ahead who isn't even hitting the speed limit, just wanting him to go and no place to get around him.
So now we have a 4-way fight for P5 in the GTPs, as we see Ove Trangarade almost having an incident there. And my goodness, it's close stuff between Ian Haycox and Jack David Spickett. Those two have come back together. They got Brendan Lim and second place Timothy Reed, who is in the worst possible position right now.
Still no pit stop for Del Olmo up at the front.
Wow, okay. Timothy Reed has just decided that he's going to shoulder check all of the Audis out of the way down the hill.
And that sent Haycox through the grass. He's still going. JDS now in front of him. And there's a lot of these prototypes. I don't know how you figure out where you place your car in this situation.
I think you just drive whatever line you're on at the moment and pray that no one else runs into you if you're the Audis. And the GTPs, you have to just pray that the Audis continue driving their line so that you don't run into them.
11 minutes to go. Del Olmo still hasn't pitted in. How far can these Audis go exactly?
Usually 45, 50 minutes, depending on the fuel strategy that you're running over the course of the race. Some drivers have been able to stretch hour-long races for full fuel, but this one has too much time on the full throttle. I think you're around full throttle here like 75% of the time in the Audi, so he's going to have to take a pit, but he could probably still stretch it another couple of minutes.
Keeping an eye on him to see if he's going to come in this time. Surely, I would think so. But he can't make it around another time. Nope, he says he can. He is going to carry on very light right foot in that number 1 machine.
Absolutely. So Lars Olsen finally coming out of the pits after his pit stop. Just unfortunate for him. We've had major contact in the GTOs between Zoltan Deme and Emerson Gaudin. They're going to go around at the top of the hill. That is Emerson Gaudin who's gone around. This was a gutsy move from a few of the drivers going over the top. It was actually Gaudin whose move was fairly gutsy on the inside of Zoltan Deme.
Oh, yeah. No, there is no presentation there. That's a dive bomb if I ever saw one.
And he ends up with the worst of it. Cam Porter has a face full of smoke and of what color is that? Mint green on Emerson Gaudin?
Menthol green or something? I don't know.
Something like that.
So back to Sanchez here. He is looking to try and get onto the podium. That's Andrew Medell up the road from him. It's about 1.5 seconds between. That's not Humphrey behind. Humphrey's about 6 seconds back, so he's looking a lot more clear. That's a lapped car currently back Carlos Fonseca that is none of his concern at the moment. So Sanchez up 2 from where he started. Medell, though, not someone that we've talked about a lot in this race, but up 4. And like I said, a podium position right now.
Absolutely. So Medell in a good position to secure some good points as we see Sanchez making his way around Cam Porter. Fairly well communicated there for Cam. And yeah, just ahead of them is going to be a battle for 7th position between Ian Haycox and Noah Lundberg as they've fallen off the back of Jack David Spickett a little bit. Solenska's way up the road right now, about 2 seconds up the road from that battle. But man, there's going to be a lot of grumpy drivers after this race, I think, with all of the chaos that's happened so far. It's a fairly full split, but I mean, my goodness.
Impressively, out of 47 starters, we have only officially lost 10 of them, from what I can tell. So there's still lots of them out on track. Many that took repairs returned in hopes that they can salvage something through some of this attrition. But it's been a bit messy. We kind of expected that. Road Atlanta's a bit notorious in Camel GT for producing those sorts of races. But yeah, I agree that there will be some conversations, no doubt, as we watch JDS continue to try and chase a Remus.
Absolutely, and all the drivers are trying to take what they can, trying to be cautious as we watch JDS head down the hill, just trying to stay ahead of Ian Haycox, who has been battling him all season long. These two tooth and nail most of the time, but today they've had a hard time finding space to battle with all the GTPs that have been coming through.
Even still, looking at a top 5 potentially, depending on who winds up ahead. Just behind them, was that Medell?
Yeah, it was Medell wide through the penultimate corner before the backstretch, able to hang on to it and keep going. But he's trying to make moves because Xavier Sanchez, like we said, within a second behind him.
Sanchez becoming a bigger and bigger figure at the top of the fields in all 3 of our vintage series that we cover here on GSRC. And right now he wants to at least be on the podium on this one, but the traffic did not do well for him this time. It's still 1.7 seconds between himself and Andrew as he got caught up in those GTOs.
Yeah, he lost about a second there in that pack, so he's gonna have to regain that. And at this point, most of our drivers are fairly spread out with the exception of Medell and Sanchez, and as well as Jason Clapper and Richard Holt, who've been fairly glued to the hip ever since their incidents. Sanchez, though, able to close with traffic, still just about a second separating them.
By the way, for our regular Clapper report, up 15 right now. So not too shabby from him, but he's 22 seconds behind the next car, so that's, I think, as high as he'll go. And Medell made a mistake. Sanchez is by. That looks like out of turn 7.
Ooh. Yeah, that was an opportunistic move from Medell on the inside of Baca as Baca was turning into the apex. Medell had no overlap, but went for it anyway.
And whoa, wow, very close moment for Sanchez, and I'm not sure who that is with him there, but both managed to check up in time to keep that from becoming an accident.
Yeah, so There we see Dan Reed. That was P16 Dan Reed making his way not through on Sanchez, but nearby Sanchez as that whole moment happened. Sanchez, though, while he was looking ahead to try and get onto the podium, he has to be looking behind because Medel is within 2 seconds of him.
Not going to give this up without a fight, no doubt. Medel still trying to stick with him, but he's got 5 minutes left. 2 seconds can disappear very quickly, but he's going to need to probably rely on a little bit of traffic.
So Ove Trangerade on the back of Thomas Sibus, who, after the pit stops, this is the thing that blows my mind, Joe. We haven't talked about Thomas at all this race. He's in P2 after pit stops and everything, a 14.4 second stop. So a decently quick stop, not the quickest we've seen. That was Javier Delomo at 13.6. But Sibus must have pit early and played that long game that we talked about, Joe.
Indeed, and he's up 9 from where he began, but you have to think about those behind him. Trangerade, he had an off. He had a problem. Zelinskas, so did he. Jack David Spickett has been having all kinds of problems. Noel Lundberg was fast, but he had an off. So I think this is a case of Thomas kept it on the black stuff while everybody else was sliding all over the place.
Absolutely. Him and Janky have been doing a good job. Janky, though, has had his a couple of issues as well.
Yeah, he's actually down 1 from where he started, interestingly. But I think a good result of 4th on hand here for him.
Good stuff for him, for sure. It was a nice battle for 13th position between Zoltan Deming and Cam Porter. Cam Porter's had his troubles, but here we go. Ove Trangerade right on the back of Sibus as they get going forward. This could be a move for position as we head down the hill.
And they're being approached by our overall leader soon. So Hugh Haycox, with his massive lead, probably wants to play it cool as he approaches these cars with all this battling going on as they go past the car of Sibus being overtaken by Trangerade. Gets that P2 back, or does he? He goes deep into the corner, cutting back underneath. Sibus tries to pull the over-under, but it doesn't work.
Sibus trying to keep going. That's a slow Carlos Fonseca on the apex. Just scares Sibus off of the throttle just a little bit, and that's going to allow Ove Trangerade to hang on to that.
3 laps left to go now for these drivers. It's dwindling down. I'm seeing a few more in pit lane maybe that needed one more splash and dash to make it to the finish. Duncan Moraes seems to be one of them.
Joe, we should, if we can we get a replay of Jack David Spickett and Arimas Zelinskas just a couple of moments ago? Jack David Spickett made the move on Arimas Zelinskas and absolutely parked it on the apex.
Yeah, this is absolutely textbook stuff. Drafted him, slipstream all the way down the backstretch, found the speed, and then watch under braking. This is how you do car placement. And
park it.
Boink.
Yep.
You're not going anywhere.
And Zelinskas absolutely flustered with that move, lost the grip on the car, couldn't get the wheels back under him, and lost a lot of time. He's now under pressure from Ian Haycox.
Sounds like Gaudin's been having more problems.
It's a big moment. He's absolutely lost the front end of the car, has Gaudin.
And that's with Rangel. Unfortunately, thought he was clear on the left-hand side. And that actually almost took out Medel.
And Jamie Hamill-Smith. So I think that was a lot more complex than Gaudin is giving it credit for. I think Rangel was trying to avoid a lot of incidents as Ian Haycox gets past Zelinskas on screen.
Oh, but I don't think it's over. Zelinskas could try and fight back. He does not. Behind them, Lim and Suarez, who are battling for position. No, they're a lap apart, but they're only 1 position apart. Shouldn't interrupt this one too badly, but they do, as that's slow there for Ian Haycox. Has to give up the inside. Now it's time for Arimas to come back on him. And as they come into turn 1, he's got the advantage. Ian's going to fight tough. He's going to hang on around the outside. And as they come down into the braking, he is going to hang on to that one. Wow.
Beautiful move from Ian. They had to go very slow through turn 1. Zelinskas probably could have carried a little bit more speed, but Ian Haycox was able to hold on around the outside, keep that thing from going off, and hang on to it. Hugh Haycox, though, coming around for the white flag.
Indeed, he just got it. And I know this is what we've described as an endurance format, but that's the relative use of the term. This race is 60 minutes long, and Haycox has lapped everybody up to 4th place. And it might be more because Medel's just off. Medel is off, And he looks like he's got bad damage, so there he goes by. Only the podium is on the lead lap now.
Unbelievable. Medell can't get the car going. He's going to lose even more positions. So he drops down the field significantly with that damage. I think he's got some toe damage on that machine. So Hugh Haycock's at a really good position. The battle for the lead in the GTO still on a little bit. 7/10 and closing between Trangrade and Del Olmo.
Humphrey gains a valuable position for points that he needs, and Sintez Galindo gets promoted to a top 5. Poor Medell stumbles at the finish line here as Hugh Haycox brings it down into the chicane. And like I said, when you let this man at the front, he is hard to catch. Today proves it once again as he takes victory at Road Atlanta.
Leading the GTO's tense stuff, but Javi Trangrade unfortunately makes a slide off of turn 7. That's going to free up Javi Del Olmo. He should just be able to coast home at this point. Be very cautious on his way back, but man, Del Olmo, what a race for him. Up quite a few positions from his starting spot. Great job to make his way forward during the course of this race. And now coming around the final set of corners, can he keep it on the track? Can he keep it out of the grass? Coming through the very challenging final turn, pumps the brakes just a little bit to make sure he makes it. And man, Javier Del Olmo wins today.
An excellent display. Trangrade second. Cybus, I think, very hyped on his third place as he wiggles in celebration, which is going to close this out. We're going to bring you back the post-race show, so don't go away. We will have driver interviews as well as the unofficial results. Welcome back to Road Atlanta. Another of our endurance rounds here in the Camel GT series sees Hugh Haycox dispense with everybody despite not starting on the pole and skitter away with the victory over Timothy Reed, our points leader, getting a valuable second place. His fight is not with Hugh, so he will continue to gap the field in the championship. Xavier Sanchez gets onto the podium. The only 3 cars to finish on the lead lap. Aaron Humphrey finished 4th, just behind Hugh Haycox at the line, having been lapped about a lap prior to that white flag. Heitor Sintes Galindo gets promoted up into 5th after starting 18th and seeing at least one of his rivals fall to the wayside on the very last lap. That was Andrew Medell, who finished 6th in the end. Alex Van de Sant looked promising on one lap pace, but over the course of the race, he fell to 7th. Hamilton Ruiz 8th, and then Richard Holt 9th. Then we get to cars 2 laps down. Jason Clapper, unfortunately, had his pedals fail on him with 1 to go, so he has to settle for 10th. Then it was Carlos Fonseca in 11th, Jesus Morales in at 12th, Lyle Stolson 13th, German Suarez 14th, and Brennan Lim was the last car to finish in the GTPs in 15th position. Dan Reed, Seamus Power, Alec Campbell, Tobias Roner, Jack Wells, Pepe Fuentes, Austin Diltz, James Berry, and Fabian Jungluth with a bad day at the office.
And in the GTOs, Javier Del Olmo from 4th position on the grid to the win to solidify his championship lead. Gonna be hard for anyone to beat him at this point unless he doesn't show. Ove Trengrade finishes in 2nd position, a valiant effort to try and fight Del Olmo. Thomas Sibus with a pit stop strategy to conquer all comes home in 3rd position. Fantastic race for him, with Michael Jenke also doing a great job in 4th spot. Jack David Spickett is our big mover of the day in the GTOs, up 15 positions from 20th on the grid to 5th. He beats out Ian Haycox by about a second and a half, with Arimas Solinskas duking it out with Jack David Spickett and Ian Haycox and Noel Lundberg at the end. He's able to best Lundberg and finish in 7th with Lundberg in 8th. Arturas Kundalis was up there in the top 5, battling it out as well early on, but fell some trouble and fell back into 9th, just about 6 seconds ahead of Ben Lafter, who rounds out your top 10. Then it's David B. Lehman and Robert Plumley, as well as Zoltan Deme and Cam Porter, both of them having battles with each other, rounding out the top 14. Then Jamie Hamill-Smith, our first car a lap down, as well as Edouard Yarmilo, who are our last 2 drivers to finish the race, with Xavier Baca, Emerson Gaudin, Duncan Moraes, Pablo Rangel, Linus Pekavicius, Tim Kennedy, and Mika Tupola, all struggling today.
And that will take us to our interview, starting with our overall winner, Hugh Haycox, who found himself far ahead of everybody else by the end. But Hugh, you didn't put it on pole. Were you surprised that you didn't have the fastest car, especially considering what your pace looked like in the race itself?
No, I wasn't surprised. Well, I was surprised that I messed up both my qualifying laps. But yeah, I kind of expected not getting pole because of my poor performance. But yeah, congrats to the guys who put it on pole. I've never seen their names before here, so congrats. But they made it pretty easy on the first lap for me to get ahead, which was a shame. But yeah, pretty good driving overall from everyone.
Well, glad to hear you say that it seemed like good driving, because from our perspective, and granted, we kind of expected it, this looked like a very crazy race down on the track. So, I mean, did you feel like things were calm inside the cockpit for you?
Yeah, pretty calm inside the cockpit. Not too much trouble with traffic. I mean, it's always going to be pretty awful around here because there's not that many places to overtake, and some of them are quite scary. But you know, the GTOs are pretty well behaved here. They know where we can overtake and where we can't, and they place their car accordingly. So I think everyone did a pretty good job. And you know, props to Timothy for keeping up. It's really not an easy track to keep up with the leader around here.
Yeah, he gave you a run for your money for most of it. Now, next time out, we're going to Willow Springs. I know you're not here for the entire season. You gonna come for the new track?
I don't know. I don't own it yet, so we'll see if I splash out and get the track. But it'd be quite nice to.
I'll tell you, it is a very fun circuit. So I'll give you that much. Congratulations on another win, though.
Thanks.
So that was Hugh Haycox taking the victory in the GTPs. A little farther down in this class, we have Heitor Sintes Galindo, who at least grabbed a top 5. But Heitor, talk to us about having to fight through the field. We just heard Hugh say that he messed up his qualifying. I'm going to take a wild stab and say that you did the same.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, when I saw the P18 on qualifying, I was like, oof, it's gonna be one of those things, isn't it? Fortunately, I survived everything that was thrown at, so I'm somewhat happy with this P5, even though, well, I'm sort of at least get some podiums with all the attrition and anything, but considering the circumstances, surviving and being able to not kill any Audi this week, I think I'll take it today.
Yeah, sometimes you just got to set realistic goals. There was a massive wreck towards the start of the race as well. I think it was, on lap 5. What was your perspective like in that?
Well, pretty much trying to find a gap and say, okay, let's try to let's go slower, because I was like, I don't exactly remember because there was so much stuff going on, and now I'm trying to recall. The adrenaline now wearing off, and I mean, there was a lot of things, and they're like, let's try to pick this lane and hope and pray to not have any trouble. Fortunately, it was the case in all the incidents that happened today. So yeah, pretty lucky this week, and yeah, hopefully stay the same for next race.
Well, my dad always said I'd rather be lucky than good, so I guess you got to take what you can get sometimes. Congratulations on a top 5.
Thank you, Joe. See you next race.
See you then. That was Heitor Sintes Galindo finishing 5th. Now, one that snuck up on us, Thomas Sibus, finished in P3 on the podium in the GTOs. Thomas, I have to confess, you kind of managed to pull the wool over our eyes. We looked over, and you were running second with just a few minutes to go. How did you get there?
I don't know, to be honest. When the pit cycle ended, and I saw it was P2, I nearly lost it just by pure shock. I mean, P2. I guess just the pit stop worked out, because I saw that the tail end of the GTPs were coming, and the tail end of the GTPs, they were very, let's say, exciting. They were pulling moves that shouldn't be pulled, so I just pitted, and I guess others lost more time than I did, so it worked out in the end.
It worked out in a big way. Eventually, Ove beat you to that second place at the end, but you're still on the podium. When he came up behind you, did you say to yourself, I'm going to fight him as hard as I can, or were you kind of, let's just bring this home with the top 3?
Yeah, I was initially going to fight tooth and nail, and then when he passed me, we were in a situation where there was a GTP on the outside coming into the last chicane. And I really didn't want to go into there 3 wide, so I just backed out and said, let's live to fight another day.
Well, again, you did an amazing job on this one, coming up 8 spots in the end. Will we see you back again when we go to Willow Springs?
On Willow Springs, probably not. I don't have the track, but it's always fun. This series is very fun, and it's fun to finally be on pace, at least here. So, very, very, very good feeling.
I think you deserve to be proud of yourself. Congratulations on a podium.
Thank you.
Thomas Sibus finishing 3rd. And after a quite long morning and early afternoon for me with 3 back-to-back broadcasts, that's going to wrap us up. And, of course, we want to thank the Camel community for bringing us back for another season of coverage here. Thanks to the team today, Adam, Bobbert, and Dougie. Make sure to check out our social media, our website, and our merchandise store. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Like we said, the brand new California track, Willow Springs, is going to be next week, Saturday, August 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern. for the Camel GT drivers, but be sure to check out our other broadcasts that we have listed here. And until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.